And for the 262nd time in a row, we're live. It's Thursday night. It's 9 o'clock. We're live as usual. Ross is checking in. He's got a storm, but he's going to try his best to stick with us. What's up, Ross?
Yeah, I wish I had any power over that. Good to be here, Kevin. I hope I'm with you all night, but another great Thursday night.
Ross has got his Big 3 T-shirt on, and guess what's next week?
I know. That's why I got it on in tribute, which I won't be there. I couldn't make it out of work this year.
It's going to be an interesting one for me as well because it starts on my birthday, so I'm going to miss that first day staying home with the family, but I'll be up there a week from today doing the show somewhere. Who knows how we'll get it done, but we'll get it done next week from Big 3. Let's see. Yeah, always. Clover Tax in the house. What's up, Clover?
Good evening, gentlemen. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube.
It's good to see you as always. Appreciate you jumping in. Trey's in. Ghost Tactical.
What's going on? Thanks for having me. Hello to everybody out there on the YouTubes and the Facebooks.
Speaking of big time, Mr. Big Time, Mr. 1,000 subs. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's
marker.
pretty cool. Whoever would have thought that? I sure as hell didn't. But yeah, thanks to you and further support. I appreciate you.
I'll say it again. Unsub me and go sub that guy. Googler, you're here. What's going on, dude?
Not much. Glad it's Thursday.
Cool. I need those details on that that story because I'd have just the video. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you check out the link below on the YouTube page. Has got a direct link over to On It. Ross, got a question for you, dude. What do you know about kettlebells?
I know they're heavy.
Jeez. You know about kettlebell workouts?
Yes, I know a bit about them. I know a bit about them. Their use in CrossFit.
They're getting used quite a bit for a bunch of different exercises that people think they kind of say you get a different overall workout. Go check out On It for all kinds of reasons, but they do have pretty great kettlebells over there, including like Darth Vader ones and Star Wars ones and all kinds of stuff. But that link below will get you here, and then you can get started from there. And from there, there's all the different things, the fitness, the food, the supplements, and you help out the show and support On It at the same time. So that's our little promo for the night. Talk about Lan Xang later, as always. So anyway, let's get started tonight. It was last week. Rick Scott had not signed that bill. It got signed. In a brief statement or two, if in a couple sentences, I'll throw it out to you guys. Ross, what are your thoughts on the fact that, as predicted, he did sign the legislature that was presented to him unchanged in 2 weeks, as he said he was going to do?
I think that, honestly, Kevin, I feel like there's an agenda that's being moved forward. They're taking advantage of the fact that you have to act while the iron is hot, and he succumbed to the pressure, or he just could not remain logical about the situation. I don't know. I mean, I wish there was more we could do to shed light on the fact that these things aren't going to help the next one. You know what I mean? I just don't see how it's going to help the next one.
Speaking of the next one, is this the tipping point towards a bunch of legislation that's going to happen fast and furious this year? What's your opinion, Clover?
I really don't. I don't know. I tend to stay fairly optimistic. I really don't think so. I think we're going to end up with some lawsuits and courts tying some things up. I think we're going to see some pushback from the pro-gun community, hopefully. And I don't think it'll may be as bad as what some people seem to think.
Okay. Ghost, do you think they're going to use Florida as a model for other states, or do you think there's going to be something national that happens prior to more state things based on what's going on right now?
I think that they're going to try to use Florida as a model or a template. Unfortunately for the rest of the states, is they don't have the tragic, in-your-face, emotional attack that Florida had. I don't necessarily blame Governor Scott. He was in a tough position. There was a no-win situation for him regardless. But I think there are going to be a lot of states that will use a template. I don't think that it will happen. But what I do worry about is I really don't think there's going to be some major legislation coming through the federal side. I really don't. I think that the major issues are going to be with the states because there's a better chance at the state level than at the national level. That's my opinion. But I'm like Clover. I'm optimistic that it's not going to happen, but I think there's a lot of states that will definitely try.
Cool. And we'll get into that. I appreciate the opinion when I say cool. We'll get into some of that as we continue this conversation. Let's just kind of give you a quick update on what's going on in Parkland. And the reason I talk about it tonight is because what I'm seeing is that as I've got all these things to talk about, we're a month later and it's front and center in not so much on the national news scene anymore, but it's still front and center in our world. It's still front and center in a bunch of people's world that are getting ready to go do a march on their local, and a lot of traveling is being done to go to other places so that they can all participate. And as that's going on, I can't help but think about the history of this show and what we were talking about just a couple months ago out in Las Vegas at SHOT, talking to those cabbies and Uber drivers about the lack of coverage and how all those people were shot and killed in Las Vegas, and all we got out about it was a story about bump stocks. Does anyone, Googler, has there ever been a photo or any evidence of an actual bump stock from Vegas, or was it literally just they said it and that was it? Because that was what I remember.
There's the photo in the actual room where there's those two rifles, and one of them does have a bump stock on it, but they never came out and said that was the rifle that was used.
All right, fair enough. But the coverage disappeared was the point. Yep. All of that happened and it disappeared. You didn't hear about lawsuits. You didn't hear about protection. You didn't hear about upgraded security for the next time they have a festival there. You didn't hear anything. It was just gone, vaporized from the news, scene. And here we are a month later, and with the 10 days out from now, you have this massive march talk being planned. This seems to be the story that is nationally driving this narrative towards changes in guns and people wanting to have these laws that occurred here in Florida be something that's talked about nationally. The updates from here, they released the 911 calls from the kids. And I've only listened to a few of them because I don't really want to be honest with you. They're brutal. They just are. The other thing that happened was they released the video of the sheriff who was on duty as the security officer today, late afternoon. The video doesn't show much. It shows him going from one place to another and not doing the job that we all talked about in the last 3 weeks of running and taking on the action. He's got excuses about thinking it came from here, thinking it went there, all of that. All of the failures of the sheriff's department are still being discussed and brought up. My hashtag is BSO has to go. I'm done with it. I've looked at this case. I've looked at where they failed, how they failed, leading up to it with the handling of the calls to the kid's house, anything having to do with that, the protocol of the officer on duty, on campus, the protocol of the officers that showed up, and the command of their officer to stay 500 feet back from the building. There's no excuse for any of it, in my opinion. I spent some time this week talking to my friend at one of my friends at Coral Springs Police Department, sitting down and finally catching up with him. And he told me his experience as he experienced it that day. The interesting thing about that conversation that I'll relay to all of us as guys who train and guys who, again, feel like if a situation were to occur, we'd be able to jump to action. And I've heard this from more than one person now, is that there were some things that he was trying to get done and his focus was just on that. There was really no situational awareness of the bigger picture. He narrow focused on what the task at hand was, and that was what was the most important thing. He remembers like going tunnel vision on a couple things, and I thought that was interesting. Just something to talk about later.
Well, not to mention that that's a perfect opportunity for an officer to be in the building and dealing with that situation.
Well, again, he showed up at a point where there was so much action and so many, there's so many buildings, and he revealed to me he'd never even been on that campus, which he doesn't have kids there, and there's no reason for. So, and you're talking about that sprawling campus. They didn't really. The other thing is, again, there's 2 communication systems, one for the BSO and one for Coral Springs. They're not on the same headsets. So,
well, I think the department needs to be held accountable for their action or lack of action, whether that be firing them because you pay it. Parkland pays them to
all right, you ready?
Provide security. So you should have the choice of who
$6 million a year, Ross, is the contract.
Yeah, dude. You should be able to choose who does that. And if the contractor that does that, be it Broward County or Coral Springs, if they fail, you have the right to fire them and find somebody else. Shit, $6 million. You could do private security and get better security than BSO.
Pretty big push for the Coral Springs Police Department to take over. So that people are trying to figure out how to make that happen. Israel, the sheriff, he's in for another 2 years. There's a lot of politics. However, there's a lot of people who are pissed like I am, and I don't know that whole group and how that all goes, et cetera. But it's craziness.
Hey, Kevin, Midnight Range out there wants to know if there's any update on the SWAT team members, or whatever they were, that were suspended for going in against protocol.
Just that they were suspended, and it's a week later, and we haven't had an update. Yeah, thanks for asking.
So they're still suspended as of this time?
As of this time, that's correct.
Wow.
What's up to everybody going on in the YouTube chat? Sorry, I can't keep up with that. Good to see everybody. Yeah, it's craziness. So before I go to the next thing, I'll let you know that last night I attended something called the SOS Parkland Secure Our Schools meeting. This is a group of parents that kept the politics on the side and decided that they are going to go after the securing of the schools aspect and those types of things that they can directly go after. Things like perimeter fences, personal panic buttons within each classroom. I learned that there's like an app out there that other schools are using in other places where the ability of the teacher not just to have to call into 911, but they can actually hit a panic button that identifies where they are and which room is actually making the call to the first responders and let them know. One of the debatable things they talked about was ballistic film for windows and doors. And, again, now you're talking about the fire department codes against ballistic windows. Now all the kids can't get out through the windows. So there were some electronic doors, exterior security offices. They talked about other things. They had a security expert come in and talk about doing a full security assessment. They talked about taking the 5 schools in Parkland and trying to create a model where they could fund and not the assessor, the people in the room wanted to figure out how to be able to properly fund and make it happen. I found out that, oddly enough, Broward County Public Schools has received somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million from donors, of which not one penny will be spent in the way that people want it to be. Be careful where you give your money. It's my advice tonight. So anyway, it was interesting going and listening with my background to security experts and other people basically try to sell people on them going in and doing an expensive security evaluation that then they would have to take to the school that's being sued by everybody for the shortcomings and have them agree to do new things to fix the school. Are you hearing this? It's going to be impossible.
Absolutely.
I could be wrong, and I'm not trying not to be pessimistic about it. But not only are you talking about, again, they were talking about things like medical kits and doing the different bleed kits and those types of things in classrooms and getting the teachers the training and doing all of these things. And then you talk about all of that, but just the implementation of allowing someone to come into the school and go through and point by point, point out all the weaknesses and all the points that need to be fixed and all of those things and the cost, et cetera. There's no way that the administrators of the county are going to allow this to happen.
There's no way without huge federal grants that you could possibly fund that. But Kevin, we all know that there are steps they could take to make it safer.
Not true. So there's a math guy in the house last night. There was also a couple real deal security guys that weren't there on behalf of anybody. They were actually residents who install security systems and implement security regulations at major hotels all around the world. This guy had all this background and everything, and he had an interesting take on it. He said the assessment would be a huge waste of money and time. But Ross, it would basically be, they said, what would be the Rolls Royce to outfit the school right now? And they came up with the number of $500,000, just throwing it out there. What would it take to go into a school, increase the fences, make a one-way point, metal detector, outfit the school so that it was safer than it is today, the Rolls Royce of school safety in America. And the number that came up was $500,000. So then they were saying, all right, well, there's 5 schools in Parkland. There's X residents. That's $200 a resident. At this point, you could get that from everybody, blah, blah, blah. So the guy was going through, but there's all kinds of difficulties with raising that money or getting that money or having some benefactor come in and say, here, I'll stroke a check. You guys become the model, and getting it done from there. There's all kinds of red tape, all kinds of issues, all kinds of politics.
Have you guys thought about passing a millage? Because if you put it in a millage up to the vote and they don't follow it to the T, they could be liable in lawsuits.
I'm not familiar with that, but we can talk about it later.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it was an interesting thing to be a part of and go listen to. And I had my questions coming from talking to guys like Ryan Hoover, who have been teaching and training anti-terrorism and active shooter protocols to organizations and teachers and all around the country, mostly in private schools, because as he's explained it to me, the problem with public schools is the teachers can want it, the kids can want it, the administrators and the janitors can want it. But as soon as you hit a level of where the liability line is, they just squash it every time and don't allow an outside team to come in and teach teachers how to fight. So there's a lot of interesting aspects of fixing this problem. Looking back to the title of the show, 3 weeks ago, how do we fix this? And that's all we're doing is asking questions. Tonight we're talking, right now we're focusing on the school safety side of things. What do you got? And then again, the interesting comment of the night that explains a little bit more about the room that I was in was, quote, well, I have a comment. No one seems to be remembering that there's 3,000 kids going in and out of this school, and they all have backpacks. We don't know what's in those backpacks. And my thought was, and half of them drive up to the school in cars. We don't know what's in those cars. Come on.
Very good point.
So
and then again, someone said, well, what do we do? Metal detectors? And someone else said, is Parkland ready for metal detectors?
Are you ready for rights violations left and right? I mean, come on, man.
The realities of the conversations that are going on, Ross. So anyway, I pointed out that the training of the teachers was going to be a challenge because, once again, there's going to be blocks. Even if we could get an assessment in, even if we could get all the recommendations put in place, it's not just the implementation of the new stuff. It's the maintenance of it. It's the ongoing training. It's all of those things. And again, that is something that I think nationally we as a society can do. There are simple things you can do at a school that don't require a lot of money. But, as someone pointed out, you can make a 10-foot fence. Someone could throw something over the fence. Over, through, under, people with bad intentions, all of these things. And the guy leading the meeting at one point said something along the lines when someone had a suggestion, well, that's not going to stop someone from coming in with an AR-15 and killing people. And my thought, of course, and I looked at my wife and, none of this stuff is. Someone with really bad intentions is going to go into any building in America and do things until someone stops them.
Well, and you're going to assess a security threat. What security threat? Guns, a guy walking in with a gun, or someone driving through the fence with a car, or a bomb, or, I mean, there was a report earlier this week about a school that had 2 bombs that were found in it. So you can secure it for plan A, but isn't there always going to be some other way to do the same thing that you're not looking at? And my second comment is do you really want your kids going to school in a prison, man? I mean,
exactly.
As callous as it sounds, and I certainly don't mean to be callous in any way, shape, or form. If it happened, I don't know how to say it. I'm not even going to say it, but it's not like it's an everyday event at Parkland High. It happened once in its existence.
No, but you're talking about parents that are dealing with all the emotions still of a community.
Oh, that's why I feel like I'm being.
They all want answers. No, they all want answers now. That's obvious. This is the whole thing. They don't want this to fade away. They don't want this to be something that. And again, we're just talking about school safety here, Ross. That's all we're talking about. We're talking about looking.
And I totally commend that you guys are doing something proactive like that instead of waiting for something like a legislation to happen. You know what I mean? As parents, the school is your school. Your kids attend it. You guys could provide a lot of value in the little things before the government ever gets around to making any real changes. You know what I mean?
And that's part of the goal here. It says here on here, the recent tragedy at the school exposes a number of security flaws in our children's schools that must be addressed. There is no time to wait to make the necessary changes. We must take responsibility for our own children's safety. Pretty clear cut. Again, sosparkland.com if you want to see what we're talking about. It is what it is. And again, something I'll pay attention to and be watching and monitoring and being at least a participant of, because I'm curious as to what they can actually get done and what we can get. Again, the medical kits in the classrooms nationwide should be next to the fire extinguishers in the schools, in my mind. It's a simple one.
Yeah. That is a simple one. But how many teachers also, I mean, how many teachers actually aren't trained, even at a minuscule level, of first aid and how to use a tourniquet? I mean, there needs to be training with that. I mean, people forget about tourniquets as a first line of defense in first aid, and that's a huge thing. But I'd be willing to bet across the country, the vast majority of teachers don't know how to apply a tourniquet.
True.
Or even administer basic first aid, for crying out loud.
Right, exactly.
Past a Band-Aid, they have almost no skill in that. I would say most of them.
And I'm sure they would have no problem taking that class. Well, I'm sure that most would have no problem taking that class. That's a skill set that anyone after a weekend of training, you can get to a level that's, again, competent, better than someone with zero training, able to respond to someone until an expert shows up with the flashing lights. You know what I mean? Like you're able to at least mitigate. There's all those studies about how basic training and tourniquets and equipment on the battlefield have. Look at all the amputees that we have that come back as a result, usually of good training and good equipment on hand. The other thing that was mentioned in the chat, and shout out to Wood and Jay, they're having quite a soiree back and forth about things like getting on and off a cruise ship. You have that badge that gets scanned. All the kids are going to have lanyards with their IDs on them. And I think that does, again, obviously, is just over time, it ensures that everybody that you see has got a lanyard and a badge on it. If you see someone that doesn't, all of a sudden that's an immediate notification of, wait, something's wrong here. And I get that as a very basic thing that can be done.
Yeah, because those can't be forged at all, could they?
No, of course they could. But again, it's another step. And someone could wear theirs from last year. I agree with you there. So the other thing that happened this week, 2 things from this whole thing. The big one was the school walkout. You had students all over the country decide to wake up and go out and protest what they refer to as gun violence. and some of them were respectful. Some of them got out of hand. Some of them did what they said they were going to do. Some of them changed plans mid protest. And, you know, that's, again, there was a lot of discussion on social. If you want to get in an argument with somebody about whether or not kids should be allowed to do it or given the right to do it, go ahead and get on there and have those conversations. But I think the bigger point is this generation seems to be vocal, angry, and pretty good at social media. And say what you will about them, with some of the mistake signs and some of the signs and some of the things that were pointed out, you know, obviously from people in our community about, you know, obvious mistakes in terms of saying one thing but having a sign that says something else, or they are out there. But you had a huge gathering of kids get out of school and go and say, you know, there was a bunch of other people that they did get up, they did protest, they did get in front of microphones, they did get on the news talking about their message of the guns are the problem, period. And again, on the 24th, a week from Saturday, you're going to have, as I've been calling it since day one, the biggest anti-gun march nationally that we've ever seen. What do you guys think about all the protesting?
I got two quick points I'll make about the school. It has nothing to do with the kids. It's the school systems in general. Is, you know, they have the expression in a school. I think it's ironic that they will allow students to leave, walk out, whatever, and protest, to express their protest on gun violence. But if someone was to wear a Glock t-shirt or a necklace with a brass casing around it, they would be sent home or made to change their clothes immediately. I think it's very ironic that they pick and choose what they allow the kids to express themselves and how they let them express themselves.
Interesting point. Anybody else? Ross, you're keeping quiet because you don't want to get in trouble. What do you got to say?
I'm not jumping in. I'm
There
not
are
jumping
rules tonight.
I'm not jumping into
There's
this.
no rules.
The fact of the matter is that you cannot, without a massive amount of organization, get the whole country to do anything. These teachers are part of the problem. The whole walkout and the whole anti-gun thing is a political stance. These are children. These children are being exploited for political gain. That is all that's happening right now. Everybody should be shocked and mortified that teachers promoted this political sham on our kids. That's all I'm going to say.
Everywhere.
My kids didn't participate. My kids were on spring break. They didn't have the opportunity to. But I will tell you that there is no way that this is not the use of our children to provide a backboard for a political discussion that is not going to solve the next one.
All right. Myself watching it, I noticed that the first two things they put on television were DC and New York. And I thought, how ironic that kids are out protesting the fact that they can't have guns in places where they can't have guns.
I wasn't going to say it. I'm going to let you say it.
Oh, man. I mean, again, there's a reality of this whole thing. You know what I mean? That, to me, is mind-boggling.
What percentage of kids are just going along for the ride? Because let's face it, they're kids.
I think a lot of them just wanted to get out of class, free go run around and get out of class. I saw a lot of that coverage, but you know, some of them, you have activists, you have kids that have decided that their voice is something that they want to make sure is part of this whole thing. And so in pockets all over, you're seeing that kind of stuff.
Yes, I'd like to find out how the kids that chose not to participate, how are they being treated by the schools, the teachers, the principals, and all that? I mean, I haven't heard any of that, but I mean, I'm assuming there were kids at Parkland that didn't participate. I mean, were they treated any differently?
Dude, actually, I hate to keep talking about it because it's here and keep acting like that's what this show is about all of a sudden, week in and week out. I guess we're going to keep talking about it.
You're giving us firsthand knowledge of something that we don't know what's going on. That helps.
Understood. And we got other stories from the rest of the country to talk about for sure tonight. And we'll get to them. The truth of the matter is I'm incredibly proud of this principal and how he's handled this. I told you he calls on Fridays and gives you the school update. Well, since this thing has happened, he's been calling on a regular basis, and usually I hit it to voicemail and then I go listen to it later. And it's the principal of the school giving you the update. And the update he came with in the afternoon of the walkout expressed frustration. He came on and he said, "Listen, I'm in a no-win situation here. Here's what happened. We told the kids yesterday, and this is what we planned for the kids that want to go participate in this month later walkout and show a sign of respect to the kids that are lost. We will assemble on the football field as a school. We will do what comes to us naturally. And then after 17 minutes of silence or 17 minutes of prayer or whatever it is, we will go back to school and resume school. Those who don't want to participate in this, you can go to the cafeteria. Don't have to do this. But, you don't want to sit alone in your classroom because most likely the teachers are going to go out." So that's what they did. And what happened was half the kids decided at the walkout, at the assembly, that they were done with school and they were going to walk up the Pine Trails to the other memorial. They did. The police and the administrators were telling them as they were leaving, if you leave campus, you're going to get an unexcused absence and you need to call your parents. They were saying this over and over and over again. Because think about it. Normal school day, it's the responsibility of the school. The kids come in, they start school. It's a school day. They have this assembly. If kids just start leaving, they didn't go through the office and sign out like everybody else has to. So they all left. And basically what he said was the police had decided to give the kids that are going to walk up to Pines Trail safe passage. We're going to escort them up. However, it's an unexcused absence. Parents, you need to be aware of where your kids are. And this is, what did he say? Something along the lines of, this is the gimme. This is the last time that something like this will go without discipline is the way he put it, I think is the way he put it. Because he was saying, again, this is a school. We can't just have disobedience.
It sounds like he's a very level-headed person, and it sounds like he deserves a lot of respect because that is, when is enough? And I'm not trying to take anything away from the school, but, you can't let teenagers ride this wave the entire school year. So I like the fact that he said, hey, this is it. This is the last time and all that. So I respect that.
They respect him, and he is in charge. It is a very clear hierarchy over there, no doubt about it. And he's got the full support of all the parents too. And if they don't, something's wrong with them because he's been just incredible. So anyway, so again, that's what happened. They all walked out and showed their support of this, and now once again you have this march coming up that. The rhetoric on the website mirrors the rhetoric mirrors word for word Moms Demand Action stuff. That's coming up soon on the 24th, the big rally in Washington. There was a local meeting where they were really having a hammering an argument back and forth about whether or not they were going to have a march in Parkland and where to have it and how to have it. And the only place to have it is this park over here, Pine Trails Park. It's the only one that's big enough to accommodate anything. And I read this morning that they're expecting 30,000 people at that gathering. That's unprecedented. That's Googler, how many people live in Parkland? And also, how many people live in Coral Springs? Because that's what I think they're thinking is that all the people from Coral Springs, because there's a lot of kids from Coral Springs that go to that high school and feeder high and the other feeder schools. So they're talking about a huge event here. It is not a peaceful gathering to memorialize people anymore. The memorials are being removed respectfully as we speak. And this is going to shift over here to a very hard rhetoric. We got Rick Scott to sign this stuff. That's not enough. And they're happening in your town too.
Yeah, time will diminish the urgency. You know what I mean?
What's up, Scott? What's up, Jay? Larry, what's happening, buddy? Hope all is well in your world. Jay says shit show. Jay, you want to hang out that day? Hang out on the 24th. We'll get ice cream.
Ice cream.
I don't know. All right. So the other thing that went down, if you guys are ready to shift gears, is the House passed a school safety bill a month after the Parkland shooting. They passed a bill that would authorize grants to train students, law enforcement, and teachers to identify the signs of school violence before it occurs.
Yeah, I heard about this, actually. I was happy to hear that something other than gun control was being pushed out there. You know what I mean? What can we really do to make our schools safe? We can protect our schools. We can give them the resources. I think nobody, although I've heard some different opinions on this, I don't think anybody would say that our schools are flush with money for anything. So any help our schools can get, I applaud. I think they focused on the money. I think they focused on giving them what they need to get things in place in a timely manner to at least try to keep our kids safe, man. I think that's what everybody in the country wants.
It is a bill that does exactly what we were talking about. It brings in school threat assessment teams to the tune of $50 million annually in grants. And allows those teams to then train students and staff to report threats and other measures over a 10-year period. It's also been introduced in the Senate, and it's actually getting acclaim even from people like Sandy Hook Promise Managing Director Nicole Hockley. She said, quote, "The bill doesn't solve everything, but it's an important step in preventing all forms of violence," unquote, in schools. Well, basically, it's going to give kids the ability to have the conversation, it looks like, and actually talk about things that they don't talk about, like, here are the signs. And that was the other thing I want to talk about, the walkout real quick. There was also the walk up and the walk in. Did you guys hear about this?
I heard very sporadic. You know, the funny thing is none of that was as organized as the one.
Well, I wanted to commend those people. In case you missed it, it was, the walk up was, instead of going and protesting gun violence, go walk up to 17 people that you don't know in the school and say hello and introduce yourself. Go walk up to the kid that sits by himself and make sure that he's not alone anymore. And that goes back to this. They want to give kids the ability to have conversation. I don't know what class they're going to teach it in or how they're going to talk about it, but they're going to say, hey, here are the warning signs of someone who needs our help in the future. I think we all should be for something like that.
Yep. Agreed.
Clover.
We should all get back to caring about one another. I think there have been conversations on this show about the lack of that these days. There seems to be more interest in the phones and less about caring about your neighbor, caring about your friends, being a stand-up person, understanding relationships, all important stuff.
Yep. Clover, go ahead. You had something to say.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I mean, Ross pretty much covered exactly what I was going to say.
See, that's what he does.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's fine. And I think that's old school thinking that has been quickly forgotten, that we've got to get that back. And I mean, maybe these classes are a start.
Yep. So there you go. Following up, thanks, Googler. 24,000 people live in Parkland. 121,000 people live in Coral Springs.
So let me ask you this. You know what we talked? Oh, actually, you know what? I wanted to say one thing. The best one I heard about today about the walk up, whatever, was they gave these kids sticky notes, man, and they wrote encouraging notes to one another and slapped them on their lockers. You could do it anonymously, whatever. It just seemed like that was a great thing to promote. Togetherness. Nobody felt excluded. There weren't lockers that didn't get these notes. It was awesome, man. I really do commend them for going that route.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else do we got tonight? God, it's already that. We're not going to get to the slippery slope tonight. We're gonna have to have a special episode on that. I'm just telling you, there's not gonna be enough time. 9:47 after the hour. I wanted to talk real quick before we go into the next story. a little bit more about Lan Xang. We talked about it in the pre-show on Facebook, but I promised that I would do a quick shout out to the guys at Lan Xang Tactical. Go over to World of Power magazine or Sniper Journal. There's a full 6-page spread on Lan Xang there. There's a story about the history. There's a story about little tidbits here and there about the owners and how it came to be. A story about a couple of the stories we've talked about several times about the history of the CAS-22 and these, gas guns that are actually winning the sniper championships. And again, we're talking about a company that's founded by a couple of great guys, including someone who was not only a ranger, but a ranger instructor. So guys that have been there, done that, came back, created an American business, and support us, and we support them in any way we possibly can. And to not point out that they've got this 6-page spread from a national magazine giving them some of the recognition about all of the different competitions that these professionals are out competing in and winning against these $20,000 DMRs and then bolt guns that, usually sitting in a safe somewhere for 20 grand. These are the types of weapons that they're using to do it. So go check that out if you get a chance. Once again, it's Sniper Journal or World of Firepower magazine. And I'll be seeing them next week. I don't know what's new, but they better bring something new.
I actually have some information on something they're working on.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
I think so. It was posted on Facebook. Hell, I wouldn't know about it if it wasn't something that we should all know about. But I believe they're putting together their first 224 Valkyrie.
Oh, correct.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably bring that. Yeah.
It's a hell of a round. If you haven't shot it, you got to. It's a fantastic round. I'm sure Lan Xang will do it right.
Oh, it will be there. I just got the message on Facebook.
There
It will be. All right, cool. I might have to shoot that, but I'm looking forward to it. So shout out to those dudes and go support all that stuff that they do. And you can find them lanxangtactical.com. So what else do we have? Oh, the video that Ross and I are going to argue about. You guys ready for this one? So Googler, this story about the Bond lady. What happened? She had posted bond for somebody that got in trouble. He came in, he hadn't paid his bond back or whatever it may be, right? That's how that works.
Yeah, they're going to try and bring him in.
And so they're in this office, and the next thing you know, there's gunfire, and we'll watch the video and then have a conversation about what happened there. Stand by. There it is.
Ford's expensive, dude.
Let's
They are. I ain't gonna lie to you. I see that pretty little Challenger down there. That
Oh, yeah, Challenger.
absolutely
So
gorgeous.
she's talking to him, gets up, goes over, locks the door. This is when he first notices something's up, all right? She says, get against the wall.
What?
Turn around.
What do you mean?
Turn around.
What's going on here?
I'm going to sit talking to the cups. Turn around.
Well, I'm not getting
No.
no cups.
Yeah, actually you are.
For what?
PD on the whatever, you can turn around. You
Oh,
can have it like
well.
that.
For what?
Turn around.
Man, open the
Turn
door. Hey,
around.
don't put your hands on me.
Turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Don't put your hands
Turn
on
around
me.
and put your hands behind your back.
Why? What are you doing this to me for? Why are you doing it?
Yeah. Hand behind your
What are you doing this to me for, man? Fuck. You just shot it.
I did. Call PD.
What are you doing?
911. 911.
All right.
Mom, you.
911.
So the kid seemed a little shocked to me, huh?
Thank you.
Whoops.
Yeah, just a little.
Ooh.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so the way I saw it, and there's probably more to what the camera didn't reveal because there always is, But the way it seemed to me, she made a very clear decision to shoot this guy rather than let him escape. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, agreed.
She wanted her money.
Period.
That's right.
Point blank period. She didn't want to wrestle with him. She didn't want to try to physically put cuffs on him and restrain him. She did not have that training or that ability. She got to a point where she said, he's going to leave. And she went into the drawer, pulled a gun, and just shot the dude. Someone said that he was trying to jump out the window, Googler.
Yeah, he was trying to get out the window.
So that door must have had one of them powerful magnetic locks or something like that where he realized that wasn't an option because he didn't really mess with the door.
So did you notice that the son was in there to put the handcuffs on him? Did you notice that he had 2 tie wraps in his hand?
He had something in his hand to do cuffs, it looked like, but obviously he was shaken by the fact that mom pulled the gun and shot him.
Oh, he was definitely shaken up, yes.
And it looks like she takes the safety off of that gun before she shoots him. So if what she claimed in court was really true, there's no way she would have had time to take the safety off that gun and shoot him.
What did she
like
claim?
The camera showed. She said, I was afraid he was going to shoot my son. I felt like we were going to be killed. I'd never been so scared before in my life. And then she also testified that Williams attempted to grab the gun before fleeing out the window. And then she turned the gun on him and shot him in the back.
If you're going to make up some dumbass story like that, you probably shouldn't be on video. As cool, calm, and collected as anybody I've ever seen write a letter to another human being. Yet she snaps off a round, says, yep, I shot him. Call 911. I'm interested what you thought we were going to argue about.
Oh, I thought you were.
It takes her like a minute for her to tell her son to call 911. It's like she's walking away, and yeah, call 911. I mean, it wasn't like it was immediate, you know.
I think it's kind of ironic that her story is that she was trying to protect her son, but yet she puts her son in that situation to begin with, and now he's witness to this horrible shooting.
And she flagged him afterwards. I don't know if you guys
yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
Well, did the son look like he was in any danger? Did the guy look scared at all until the mom pulled the gun and shot him? No, the kid looked fine.
She said, no one's going to call me a bitch.
Yeah.
Jeremy. Big Jeremy chimes in with a good one. But it's true. She was not letting that happen. So anyway, she got off. They didn't get her
she got off on a technicality.
And he died, is that correct?
He died.
I believe so, yeah. Yep.
So he obviously went to the bond office on his own accord, right? Like he wasn't dragged in there. So she somehow called him in to have a conversation or a meeting, right?
Yeah, she tricked him in. That's a lot of times that's what they do. They talk all nice, and so yeah, she tricked him in there. He wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't tipped off until she locked the door, and then he was like, whoa, what's going on?
Right.
I just don't understand how your response to this guy's not going to pay me my money is to shoot him, because then you don't get your money either, right?
Yeah.
Well, she probably
and
had.
Where was the imminent threat?
There was no imminent threat.
Exactly.
Think about that. Scareder than I've ever been in my life. Show me that on the video. Show me scareder than she's ever been on.
She was chasing him around the room.
Absolutely. This is a case of rent money was due. She had to either get him in or kill him, and she chose to kill him.
I don't think they issue warrants dead or alive anymore. I don't think that's a thing that happens in the United States.
Yeah, like alive or dead.
Looks like straight murder. Listen again, she says it. Since he was running away, it shouldn't be a justified shooting. Yeah, I always thought it was illegal to shoot somebody in the back that was, even if they had your TV and was running out your yard, shooting them.
It's not illegal, but you should never win a court case with it. I mean,
Right. There you go. All right, we got one more tonight. 3 students injured when California high school teacher fires gun during safety course. How many times have we talked about accidents on this show? 3 students at a Central California high school were injured Tuesday when a teacher fired a gun inside of a classroom during a firearms safety course, according to police and local reports. Dennis Alexander discharged a semi-automatic handgun. Dennis Alexander discharged a semi-automatic handgun as it was pointed at the ceiling. 3 teens attending Seaside High in Monterey County were hurt by debris falling from the ceiling, including, it looks like, some shrapnel. The teacher had told the class that he was going to use the gun for a demonstration about how to disarm someone and was checking if the weapon was loaded. It's the craziest thing, said a parent. It could have been very bad. One kid had a bullet fragment give him a little scrape on his neck. It happened during Alexander's administration of justice course. He also teaches math and is a reserve police officer for Sand County Police Department and a Seaside councilman.
Can I just say that it's ironic that one of the states that has one of the worst gun laws in the country has a gun safety class? Can I just state the obvious here?
It says that the school district said that safety of the students is a top priority, and the teacher has been placed on an admin leave. In 2015, California banned the concealed carry of guns at colleges and schools, although gun owners can ask for written permission from from authorized school officials. He may have violated a city ordinance or penal code by bringing the gun onto campus.
Well, as a reserve officer, could he not? I mean, he's an idiot to begin with, but as a law enforcement officer, I guess technically he could bring the gun onto campus, but he wasn't in that law enforcement officer role. He was a teacher, so I think he's just an idiot.
Well, okay.
Is it part of the curriculum? Is my question, or did he ad lib this shit? That's the first question that I really have.
Well, that's the great question.
The fact of the matter is if you're teaching a class, you ought to be following the 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety. The fact that he didn't just tells you that we're all still very fallible human beings. We're never going to be perfect. Shit is going to happen. The fact of the matter is as an instructor, a competent instructor, those 4 rules are there so that things like this do not happen. End of story.
And as a reserve law enforcement officer, those 4 safety rules should be paramount. I mean, it's not like this is the first time he's handled a gun, obviously, you know. Which is it's a shame that something like this happens. I don't know what kind of a magic bullet hurts 3 people.
It sounds to me like it went up, and they're calling 2 of the
ricochet or something.
They're talking about ceiling tiles that fell and hurt the kids, or something. Okay. Something that's what it sounds like to me. Someone got
ceiling
hit.
Tiles. Oh shit! It's hard lids in schools now. Damn it,
Ross.
I'm kidding.
Bullet fragments. The one kid said it was a bullet fragment. It didn't look like it really pierced his skin, but it looked like a pop zit.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless we want to go for 2 more hours, that's gonna wrap it up, guys. It's already 10 o'clock. I didn't realize how quick that conversation happened. What else did we miss this week? Anything? Was there anything major going on this week, Googler?
I think we missed the slippery slope for sure. Weren't we going to breach that?
But that's half my page here, Ross. That's at least a 2-hour conversation.
No, I know. We'll have to save for another time. We never did get around to the bombs that were found in the school.
Not in the schools. They were. You're talking about the package bombs out.
You're talking about the ones that went off and actually killed people. These were bombs that were found in an elementary school. Pipe bombs, legit pipe bombs that had, if they had gone off, would have created significant mayhem in the school. They found them and got them out of there. Not in the mainstream media anywhere. No one's talking about it. Barely got any information out of, was it Atlanta where those bombs went off, Kevin?
Googler?
I'm checking.
Yeah, I thought it was Atlanta where the bomb killed 2 people, and there was another bomb that had gone off and possibly hurt 1.
The bomb thing is big, is something that's happening right now, and I'm telling you right now, because we just said that word so many times, all of these chats are going to get disappeared on the
Austin.
Just so you know, Boston. They had a report today that the American top team down in Miami has been evacuated and no classes tonight because of a similar scare. So it happened at some gym. Happened at a gym.
Whoever's watching this on speakerphone, I apologize to your whole class. I'm sorry I said it so many times. You probably had to evacuate. My bad.
Oh, Austin. Austin's the other place.
Austin, yeah.
Austin, Texas. And I remember that because it shocked me that in all places it's Austin, Texas.
Real quick, before we get off the air, I want to troll the internet real quick. You ready? Alexa, order toilet paper.
Damn it, Kevin. I got 2 boxes of Charmin showing up. What the hell?
I don't mess with somebody I know for sure. Somebody I'm trying to mess with. All right, so that other than that, yeah, that's what's been going on in gun news this week. There's a lot of different cities that are or states that are putting out different proposals. There is something that's on the national scene, but it sounds like it's kind of stuck from what I heard last time. In terms of the big, let's get rid of all guns proposal.
It's stalled.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And that's what I said earlier, Kevin. It really is going to be up to the local people. It's going to be up to you guys to make your schools safer, because if you leave it up to politicians, you can guarantee that it'll fail, that it's going to be the same old number, same old lip service until we can do something about our politicians and our political class. We the people need to take back what our government has taken from us, and we need to provide the security that our schools need. End of story. It's not their responsibility, it's ours.
They got a couple of those remember the Guardian Angels, the dudes that used to ride the subway in New York? There's a Broward County division of that, and they had a few of them out there for a couple weeks. The other thing, did we talk about the number of cops on campus last week? We did. If I'm not mistaken. And again, Ghost, you had a great conversation 2-3 weeks ago where you mentioned maybe putting a reason for the cops to come on to campuses, meaning a substation or a place to do paperwork, etc. That's something that I've heard a little more in other places as well. So great idea. That's starting to get some traction.
You get lucky every now and then.
Hey, I'm gonna give you full credit, so own it. Right on. If you guys don't know who they are, check out Ghost Tactical. Check out Clover Tac over on the YouTube side of things, and also all the other social medias. They've got pages and followers and lots of fun stuff going with, again, responsible gun ownership by veterans and gun owners alike that believe in teaching their kids, no matter if they're young or old. Recently, Ghost's daughter got her concealed carry permit. Is that right?
That is correct. She sure did.
Cool stuff.
Proud daddy.
And you're in Arkansas, right?
I'm in Arkansas, correct, yes.
So again, without going through the whole process, how long did it take her to do that?
It was a 4-hour class and had to do a little shooting and all that. So it's nothing strenuous. And I got the enhanced license, which is an 8-hour and some more shooting. So, but she just got her regular CCW, and I'm not sure if she'll get her enhanced or not.
Right on. All right, cool. Well, time to wrap things up. And thanks. Appreciate everybody tuning in on Facebook. Appreciate everybody chatting. Ross, looks like you had some action in the YouTube chat tonight.
Yeah, great chat. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody that's watching tonight. We appreciate all the support. And everybody, no matter what their views seem to be, support us, Kevin. So we appreciate it big time.
I'll point out that this was sitting next to me the whole time. It didn't hurt anybody. And just make sure everybody knows that. Convictions are still the same. Hope you all out there protecting yourself, getting the proper training. And when it comes to the school stuff, like Ross said, like other people said, and like we discussed tonight, it looks like it's up to us to kind of push that narrative in our schools. When it comes to the huge anti-gun push out there, obviously, stick to your convictions. You don't need to be a crazy radical. to get across good points and have good conversations with people and have some adult time where you can stick to your rights, believe in your rights, not compromise on your rights, and still have a conversation with somebody who may believe something different completely, or maybe in that big bubble in the middle of America who's getting swayed one way or another based on what they're seeing on television, based on what they're seeing at the water cooler. So it's definitely up to us to keep the fight up in terms of making sure that people know that it's your responsibility to be a sound-minded, responsible gun owner out there. And again, that's about what we'll do to wrap it up tonight. Ross, appreciate it as always, brother.
Dude, it's a pleasure every Thursday. Thanks again, man.
Dude, I got all these notes on the slippery slope thing. We're going to do it. It might have to be its own show. Googler, appreciate it.
No problem.
Ghost, thanks again, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
As always, and we'll see you soon. Clover as well. Appreciate it, dude.
Always a pleasure.
Cool. Hope everybody stays safe. Have a great one. Make sure you check out On It. Click on the link below. Make sure you check out lanxangtactical.com. And if you want to contribute to something that actually trickles down to what we're doing here on a Thursday night in some small fashion, head on over to funkertactical.com. Check out the links. Go to the bottom of the page. Go to the Patreon. It's all there. The Patreon is something that's actually something we're working on behind the scenes right now with some pretty cool planning, some stuff you've never seen before. And it'll be a benefit for you to be even a basic member over there. So go check it out once again over at funkertactical.com, and down at the bottom of the pages, there's a couple links and you can head on over to Patreon from there. Plus there's some pretty decent content in there. I was watching some Zero shit. That dude's incredible.
Dude, when he shoots a Glock 19 from like 600 yards and is like ping and steal every time, that shit just drives me nuts, man. It encourages me to get better than my 3x5 card at 20 feet or 25 yards or whatever.
I watched a brief one where they again, it's a recent one on Facebook where he's putting a shotgun shell on top of a regular target walking back and just one after another drawing and putting one shot on and taking this. So you're talking about a target that's, that big. Pretty cool. Anyway, go check it out. Good content there. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Have a safe night. Enjoy the basketball. We are allowed to watch basketball, right? There was no flag stuff with that, right?
I've been watching the entire show, so that's why I've been muted.
I'm just kidding. Enjoy it. Have fun. It actually is one of the more fun things to watch when those kids that are in it for the first time upset the team that's supposed to win. It's always fun to watch. Enjoy it. Have a great one. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, peace.